Hi friends, I'm Penny Hunt, and this is Penny Heart to Heart, day 48. 48. See how I did that backwards? Day 48. That means it's the 48th day I've been in my home, the 48th video where I've come to you and chatted about tips and techniques, how to get us through this strange, weird, crazy time of being in our homes, being away from work, being in this place of social distancing from everybody we love and know, and stores and strangers and the world, really. So I started doing this, coming and just giving you thoughts that came to my mind and ideas and tips to talk about, many from my book, which, by the way, I'm giving away. If you'd like to be in this week's drawing, all you have to do is in the comment line write, "I love your book," and you'll be in this week's drawing. This is week 7, so it will be the 7th book, actually 8th. Last week I gave away 2 books because I had so many in the drawing, and so I drew 2 names and gave away 2 books last week. So 48 days that I've been making videos and talking to you, and today I want to talk about a really special topic to me. It's one that I speak about. I'm a speaker, and when I go out and speak, I often do this speech about I am good enough. And I want to talk to you about, sorry, I had to reach for something. I want to talk to you about why it's special to me and why I think it's important now. And as always, I always bring up kids. If you've got kids or no kids or have young people anywhere in your world, I always encourage you to teach the things that I teach you, especially to young people, because I really truly believe there's so many things we can teach young people that they don't learn in school that would make our world a different place. If the things that I've learned in my life and the things that I teach were taught to young people, it could be a different world. Today I want to talk about this feeling of not feeling good enough, and not feeling important enough, which kind of overlap, but kind of 2 different things. As always, if I have a writing about these topics, I always link it with this video, and I've linked 2 writings today. One that I wrote years ago, years and years ago, that's very personal to me, and it's a writing that starts off talking about my son who passed away in 2007. And I explain that I think we all have this sore spot. I always say we've got this sore spot inside of us that we feel like we're not good enough in one way or another. We feel like we are not tall enough or smart enough or thin enough, or we're not good enough to get that perfect job that we want, or that partner that we want, that we visualize. We just think we're not good enough for that. We feel like we're not deserving enough for promotion or for the attention or the accolades that we want. We feel like we're not smart enough to get that degree or go on or go back to college. There's so many times that we feel like we are not good enough. And I think it's one of the real sad issues in the world, because it happens to all of us. I don't think there's one person that doesn't have one kind of a sore spot. And sometimes we can heal it, we can get past it, and then something comes along and picks off that scab. And then we're right back to that young child or wherever the origination of your sore spot comes from. We're right back there feeling like we're not good enough. We all have it. We all have it. And in that writing that I shared, I talk about writing my son's obituary. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I wrote my son's obituary. And I listed all the things I wrote about him, what a lovely soul he was, and how funny he was, and the things that he had done. But I didn't write anything negative. And there is no place in that obituary that I said he wasn't good enough, although I believe he felt like that. And I would challenge you that you will never find in anybody's obituary that they were not good enough. It's not going to be in there because we're the ones that think it about ourselves. It's not what other people think, it's what we think about ourselves. Now, sometimes people can reinforce that, but if we allow ourselves to believe what other people think of us, that's a whole nother topic right there. And so it's what we think of ourselves. And if we truly believe we're not good enough, I can't convince you. It's something that it's the work you have to do for yourself. I want to share with you why this is so important to me. It's the writing I had written before this story happened that I'm going to share with you now. But I speak at rehab facilities. I speak at a lot of places, but rehab facilities. When I go in and speak to the clients that are there, families or staff, it's one of my favorite things to do. And I often do the I am good enough speech. And so I was going to a rehab facility years ago. And the night before I went, I wanted to be able to take something and give to them. It was a men's facility, 100 men. And so I printed off this little card that was a saying from that writing that says, I am good enough. No one is better or less than another. And I printed them off on my home computer and cut them apart, little business-sized cards. And at the end of my speech, when I talked about being good enough, feeling good enough, I walked around the room and I handed them each one a card and looked them in the eye and said, you are good enough. I also made a real point that I could stand in front of them all day telling them that I believe that they are good enough. But until they believe it themselves, I don't believe anyone will be successful at anything. You have to believe you're good enough to be successful. And so at the end of that program that afternoon, these men created a single file line. And each one of them came up to me and told me their story. And I gave them hugs. And the guys from the kitchen they were cooking dinner came out and talked to me. And there was one young man who stood in the back of the room. And other men were trying to get him to cut in line. And he'd say, no, I'll wait. And he waited till it was just two of us in his room. And he came up and told me his story. And then he said, you know, no one in my entire life has ever told me that I am good enough. I gave him a whole handful of those cards and I said, put this in your wallet, put it under your pillow, put it in the visor of your car, tape it to your mirror, and tell yourself, read it aloud. And the reason the card said, I am good enough, was because I want you to read it out loud and your voice, your mind will believe your own voice and your own words and your feelings more than any other person telling it to you. So the card doesn't say you are good enough. It says I am good enough. So when you read it out loud to yourself, it says I am good enough. He made such an impression on me. And that night when they all lined up and told me their story, and I realized what this little paper card had meant to them, I came home and I ordered them glossy. And I now get them by the case. I know this is backwards, but it says, I am good enough. No one is better or less than another. I have that on coffee cups. I have that on all kinds of things and have given away so many times. It's in my book. And I even say in my book, if you send me a note, I'll mail you a card. Because I believe in it so much that it's something that we have to believe in. And I, have a sore spot of my own where I can feel like I'm not good enough at times. And all of that plays out in many different ways when you feel like you're not good enough. It can play out in overeating and addiction. It can play out in being an overachiever. It can play out being just the opposite, not doing anything that you think you want to try or do because you feel like you're not good enough to succeed. So it plays out in so many ways, and I believe it is so important. The other side of that is feeling like you're not important enough. I know for me, I am a caretaker. I want to take care of everybody. Nothing makes me happier than taking care of somebody, making them feel important, helping them get what they want. It's why I do the work that I do. My mission statement is 3 words: to help others. To help others. That's my mission statement. And I left a executive career to do this work because I feel like it is so important and it is heart work for me. But I also have struggled with feeling like I'm important enough to take care of because I take care of everybody else. That's my job. That makes me happy. And so, for example, in the writing that I shared with you, Important Enough, it was a time when I was ill. And I don't allow myself to become ill. I am, if you're a mom and a working mom and have kids at home, you know, you don't have time to be sick. You don't have time. We're taking care of everybody else. So I would never crawl in bed for a day if I was not feeling well. And this particular time, my husband was out of town and I woke up and I knew something wasn't right. And then I started to feel worse and worse. And my husband called me and I said, oh, I'm just going to lay down for an hour. And he said some very wise things to me. He said, why would you put a time limit on it? If you don't feel well, just go to bed for as long as you need to take care of you. And he said, I'm coming home early. I'll come home early and I'll take care of everything. And you just take care of yourself. This was a concept that was so foreign to me because I wasn't used to taking care of myself like that. I would just tough right through it. I would just still go to work or do everything I needed to do, even if I didn't feel good. And I remember that time laying in bed thinking, maybe I am important enough to take care of myself. And I wrote about that in that writing. The reason I wanted to talk about these two topics of feeling good enough and important enough at this time is because I think we are in such a weird situation where we are social distancing and being in our homes, even if we're around family, but we can really slump into a sadness and the blues and not feeling good, and we're not getting to the beauty salon to get our hair cut and our gray covered, and we're not getting our nails done, or whatever it is to you. We're just not being able to get out and do some things. Maybe none of those things are things you did anyway, but just being in your home in this kind of isolation, even if you're not alone, it still creates this fear and sadness and dislocation of who we are and what we mean to others and what we mean to ourselves. And it's really easy to get down into that dark space of feeling you're not good enough. Well, maybe I should be doing more. Maybe I'm not accomplishing enough. Maybe I'm not going to have a job when they open things back up again. I mean, our mind plays such tricks on us. And I think FOMO, fear of missing out, is real. I have that affliction because I want to do everything. And so for people like us who want to do everything, it's really hard to not do anything. And it's really hard to get down on someone. And if you are the only someone around, it's really hard it's really easy to get down on us, ourselves. And start making a mental list of everything that's wrong with us, because that's what we do when we start going on that spiraling path down. And so I wanted to invite you to read those writings. I wanted to really say, encourage you to say, I am good enough out loud every day. Well, every time you walk by a mirror, stop and look at yourself and say, I am good enough. I am good enough. Say it over and over again. You've heard me say a million times, words have power. When you say it out loud and put it out there into the world and the universe and into your psyche, into your brain and into your ears with your own voice, you will believe it more than anything I can say to you. And so, although I know we all have flaws, I've got a list. I could give you a list of flaws. We all have things we wish we could do better. We all have regrets that we wish we wouldn't have done something or another. But even with all of that, we're all good enough. And I want to leave you with one thought about this, because I truly believe this, and it took me a long time to come to this acceptance of this statement, that just by way of being born, we are good enough to be here. Now think about that. Think of the miracle that it takes to become a human and be born into this world safely and healthy and alive. And just because of that, there's a reason we're here, and we are good enough to be here. Think about that. No accidents. Nobody's an accident in the world. So, I want to leave you with that thought. I really encourage you to read those writings. Both are personal to me, but one especially about good enough is really personal because I share about my son and writing his obituary, which was a really personal thing that I did. And I would invite you to read that. And if you have one of my cards, if you have my book, all of my books come with one of these cards in it as a bookmark. And so if you have had an experience with that or found my card, here's the thing. I put these cards in the pockets of airplane seats. I drop them in restrooms. I leave them in the bills at a restaurant. When we all get back into the real world again, I'll be doing that again. And I have received some really great emails and notes from people that they found my card somewhere across the country. And they found it at a time they really needed to hear this. Again, I don't think there's accidents in life. And so this little card, again, I order by the case because they're so special, and I pass them out every time I speak. So think about that. Know that I believe you're good enough, and start saying that to yourself. Day 48. Today was day 48. Remember, if you want to be in this week's book drawing, all you have to do is write in the comment line, "I love your book," and you'll be in this week's drawing. I'll be here again tomorrow at 3 o'clock Mountain Time for day 49 with another topic to talk about. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me here today. I appreciate it if you watch it later, and you can still comment in the comment line later so I know that you were here. And I upload it on YouTube if you want to watch it there or share it from there. I'm Pennie Hunt. This has been Pennie Heart to Heart. Thanks for watching.